heart pounded like a beat in the corner of the classroom as I sat crouched under the brightly colored lights, which flickered ominously overhead. The world outside was strangely quiet, like the air itself was holding its breath, waiting for what came beyond. I found myself in the middle of something that seemed like a scene from a nightmare. Like any other school day, it had begun dull and uninteresting, with just the odd lecture or whispered chat to break up the boredom. But a feeling of uneasiness came upon the school like a thick blanket as the afternoon sun dropped below the horizon and shadows began to creep through the deserted hallways. The principal's voice boomed through the classroom with an overwhelming feeling of urgency that brought goosebumps into my body as the speaker came to life. "Students and faculty, please pay attention," he said in a pressured tone. "Don't call this a drill. This is not a drill. I say again, procedures for lockdown are currently in place. Until further notice, please maintain your calmness and remain in your classrooms." As the situation's actuality set me, panic broke out in me like a wave of water. Lockdown drills were common as a safety precaution in case of emergencies, but something about this felt off. This was genuine, and there was a real threat that existed outside those classroom doors. The minutes dragged into ages as my classmates and I gathered close in terror, waiting for any sign of hope or rescue. Every second felt like a lifetime, but nobody appeared. Apart from the distant sound of footsteps echoing down the halls and the odd creak of the building shifting, everything outside was quiet. We were imprisoned in our state of fear and doubt for hours on end. Tension increased with every second that went by, and the air began to smell stale and heavy with sweating and anxiety. And then, just as I thought I could take it no more, there was a sound that broke the silence, a scream that was so loud it sent shivers down my spine. Terrified, my heart rushed to my throat, squeezing down like a vice. A rush of chaos, including Weep's shouts, and the sound of urgent footsteps echoing down the hallways, followed the scream. I felt a wave of panic come over me when I realized the threat was now inside the school rather than outside. I squeezed against the wall with shaking hands, readying myself to disappear as the noises of mayhem got closer. 1,000 situations flashed through my head, each more horrifying than the previous. Then, just as quickly as it had started, everything ended and was replaced with a spooky quiet that dominated the atmosphere. As I tried to listen for any sign of what was going on outside my classroom door, fear tightened in my chest. I waited, anxious all over, for what seemed like hours until at last the speakerphone crackled to life again. The principal declared, "The lockdown has been lifted," in a tired voice. "You can leave your classrooms in safety. Kindly make your way in an organized way to the closest exit." My legs shaky from exhaustion, I walked out of the classroom as relief washed over me like a tidal wave. The beautiful light of dawn shone outside, a dramatic contrast to the darkness that had fallen upon the school just hours earlier. The day's events repeated themselves in my head like an uncontrollable nightmare as I went home. Why was there a lockdown? What had become of the sounds I'd heard? Unanswered and unresolved, the questions remained in my mind, haunting me with the fear of that fateful day. The lockdown's memory sticks on to this day like a shadow, serving as a continual reminder of the fleetingness of existence and the horrors that lie just outside the boundaries of reality. I may never know the whole story of what transpired that day, but one thing is for sure. I will never forget the fear that enveloped me and the bravery it required to go from the shadows back into the light.
Like any other school day, it had begun with the same familiar lectures, homework, and constant noise of kids cramming into the corridors. But a feeling of disquietude surrounded me like a fog when the last bell rung and the hallways cleared out. I couldn't get rid of the unpleasant feeling I had, a feeling that something evil and dark was waiting to pounce on the boundaries of my awareness. The atmosphere in the hallways became tense as I made my way to my locker, and a chilly wind whispered through, giving me the chills. I couldn't quite understand the vibrations coming from the walls themselves. It seemed as though they were alive. I ran through the empty hallways, trying to get away from the stifling atmosphere that appeared to stay over the school like a black cloud. However, a feeling of fear flared up within of me. The feeling of unease followed me like a shadow and became worse with every step I took, regardless of how quickly I moved. I noticed something out of the corner of my eye as I turned a corner, a short flash of movement, similar to a shadow racing through the shadows. As I turned around, my heart skipped a beat, but all I saw was the empty hallway stretching out in front of me. I tried to tell myself that it was all in my head as I pushed the uneasy feeling aside and carried on with my journey. However, I knew deep down that there was more, something that was waiting to be revealed, lying in the shadows. Just as I got to my locker, I heard a gentle, continuous murmuring that appeared to come from everywhere in the hallways. The whispers became louder, surrounding me in a cacophonous swirl of sound, and I froze, my blood turning cold. "Help me," the faint but clearly present whispers begged. "Please, help me." I was overcome with terror as I realized I wasn't alone and that something was imprisoned inside the school's walls and yelling to be let out. I shook my hands and reached for the closest locker, feeling the cold metal under my fingers. The voices stopped just as suddenly as they had started, leaving me by myself in the lonely corridor with my heart pounding in my chest. I looked everywhere in the school, anxious for answers, but I could not locate the source of the whispers. They seemed to have disappeared completely, leaving just an ongoing sense of unease in their wake. The school was silent as darkness fell, and I couldn't get rid of the feeling that someone was watching me from the shadows, seeing everything I did. I moved forward into the shadows, driven on a feeling of urgency that wanted to know the truth about what was inside the whispering halls. And then, I discovered a forgotten spot in the school, a secret nook in the hallway hidden behind a tapestry. I moved the cloth away with shaky hands to show a doorway that appeared to lead straight into the darkness. With all of my bravery, heart pounding in my chest, I crossed the border. The place I discovered on the other side, a place of darkness and sorrow where the trapped soul's whispers echoed through the corridors for all eternity, would haunt me for the rest of my days. That deadly night's recall still remains large in our minds, serving as a continual warning of the darkness that lies just outside the boundaries of reality. One thing is for sure, even though I might never fully understand the events that took place in the Whispering Halls, I will never forget the fear that gripped me or the courage it needed to face the darkness and make it out alive.
Beneath its historic brick walls, steeped in mystery and history, Crestwood High towered above the town. There were rumors of a ghostly appearance that was felt but never seen as it wandered the hallways at night. I didn't learn the terrifying truth behind the rumors until my senior year. A truth scarier than any ghost story. It all began naturally, with my classmates spreading stories about weird happenings and mysterious events. Lockers trembled as though they were controlled by unseen hands. Doors slammed shut with an unexplainable force, and a mist of fear hung over everyone. Initially, I wrote the stories off as foolish superstition, the result of teenage depression and hyperactive imaginations. But I couldn't get rid of the belief that something evil was hiding inside Crestwood High's walls. As the days stretched into weeks, and the whispers became more frequent, a chill ran down my spine that fateful night when I waited in the abandoned hallways after school and felt a cold breeze. Tension began to build in the air, and I felt a sense of foreboding fall on my chest and make it difficult for me to breathe. The whispers stopped suddenly, leaving me by myself in the pitch black. That is, I believed. A dim light flashed in the distance as I moved in the direction of the exit, pulling me in with an attraction. The light brightened with every step I went, throwing an invisible glow throughout the passageway. With my heart pounding, I followed the light, my footsteps echoing through the empty hallways. And then, just when I thought I could take it no more, I discovered in the corridor a forgotten stairway hidden behind a tapestry. I gathered all my bravery and walked the stairs, the light getting brighter as I went. Upon reaching the top, I discovered myself in a dark basement with a heavy smell of rot and dust. A shadowy figure appeared in the middle of the space, a ghostly phantom with sunken eyes that seemed to penetrate right through me. When I realized I was facing the ghost of Crestwood High, terror overcame me. We were frozen in silence for an extended period, centuries worth of history weighing heavily on our shoulders. The ghost then disappeared into thin air with a silent scream, leaving me standing in the dark once more. The image of the phantom's creepy look followed me like a bad dream as I walked out of the attic and into the security of the starry night. One thing is for sure, even if I might never really understand the events of that deadly night, I will never forget the terrifying experience of seeing the Crestwood High Phantom.